Do that, Steve?
No, I do.
Not like Tim.
Yeah, that's why. Exactly. So,
Don't click it yet, huh? All right. Don't click. Don't. Oh, it's not. Okay, we'll get going. Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting Monday, March 6, 2017 at 5:06. Call the order.
Mr. Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
here.
Mr. Leland.
Here.
Approval of the minutes, we don't have any?
Yeah, we do have minutes.
We do? Oh, yeah. No.
February 15th, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Got my glasses on. I hear a motion on that?
I'll so moved to approve the minutes for February 15th.
Second. Second. I can second.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. Leland.
Yes. There's only three of us. I guess somebody has to step up and make a motion, huh?
No. Any old business? I have a question I'd like to bring up about a quasi-body inspecting a site that you sent me. Would you like to go over that a little bit? What that, I read it one way and I don't know if you meant it that way.
Oh, just that, I believe it was the neighbor had invited the board members to go out and inspect the site, and legal counsel has stated in the past that as this board is a quasi-judicial board, all testimony has to be taken in this hearing.
Correct. Correct.
Now the board can go out as a group to the site and do an inspection if they so choose. But as far as individual board members going out on their own prior to the meeting and then doing an inspection of the site, that is not.
I guess that's
So-
what I, go ahead.
So, yeah, I had some questions here as well, though. I guess my issue is, like, what does inspection mean? Does that mean, talking with the owner, like, I mean, because I feel like it's the board member's duty to do some diligence and research prior to coming to this, meeting tonight. So is that against ethical standards or legal standards?
I guess that's a question for legal counsel. But
I guess that's what you said, though, in that.
Right. I mean, it's my understanding that, yeah, that would be, I mean, that
Well, we've done
you're
that for
supposed to
years.
make your decision based on testimony that heard here, staff reports and the application.
I mean, I don't stop and do an
from the
inspection, but I mean, I think there is, I mean, I often.
I mean,
drive by
obviously, nobody can stop you if you're driving through the township and, you happen to see.
Right, I just think,
To get out and walk through a property and inspect the site and to.
At
interview.
one time, we were going to be given tags.
Right. And I think that's when that came up, is when we were.
Well, we've been doing it for a long time that way, because the visual for myself, to go see it, and I don't go on every one, but I just don't want to get in a catch-22. So could you proceed with our legal counsel and ask him about just going there as an individual?
Right, because that came up, that was discussed in our last BZA training that we had 3 years ago, and he had said that, unless they went out, the board went out as a group, went out together and did an inspection.
I wonder if we could, via email, and let another member of the board know that we're going to be going out, and we can get sort of approval without having to do a motion within this meeting to get
I
ourselves
just think
out there.
that's another, That's a great idea. I just think that's another clog in the wheel,
Yeah.
you know? I guess we'll
I mean,
just
again, it's a
leave it at that. If you
quasi-judicial
want to
hearing.
drive by and you see something, you can drive by any street, as long as you wouldn't talk to the property owner or
I mean, that's
give your opinion.
That's the legal issue though, right? Just speaking with the owner or the neighbors, I mean, looking at a site for context for, prior to the meeting, I mean, I think is important. I mean, not in every case, but, so, I mean,
Okay.
can we, I guess, I'll shoot an email, because I was going to ask you about this tonight as well. I want to make sure that I'm being legal, but at the same time, I think it's important to be able to do our diligence before we come to these meetings as well, because things are a lot different on paper than, but if that's the way we're supposed to do it.
We've
then-
got enough pictures here in this one, don't we? Okay. Anything else on that? So we check that out. New business. Since the fourth board member is not here, or who's ever on all this, it'll have to be a unanimous decision between the three of us to okay or not okay. You have, legally, you have the right to have this continued. We've had this before, never really had a problem, but we still have to tell you that that's how the vote goes. Now, if Tim was here, which he normally is, we're normally not this short, but with spring break and stuff, but I know Tim is in town, so. So if you want to ask the applicant what they want to do, I guess that's who does it. You?
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead.
Okay, that'll be on April 3rd.
Do you know if you'll have 4 or 5, and is the calendar clear for everybody, or?
Oh, right, at this point, we don't know. I mean, the three of you, do you know if you're, at this point, available April?
What's that?
I'm sure I'll be here.
Yeah.
April 3rd?
Yeah, I should be available, but that'll be determined, you know.
I should be, I leave the 5th, so.
Yeah, and there again, I'm sorry from, as the chairman here, that this has happened. And that's your right. I want you to have a fair deal here. So,
That was the only thing on the agenda, right?
well,
Right.
nobody to swear in. I guess we're up for adjournment, huh? Okay.
My only question is if this gets continued another month or so, as the House progresses, is that going to lean either which way as to approval or denial?
I can answer that. Did the building guy put a stop work order on your building? Okay. You realize, and maybe I'm taking this a step too far, but if this board doesn't give you that variance, that you have to tear them out. You realize that?
I'm aware of the request, yes.
It's not a request, it'll be the law. You'll have to take us to court. That's the next stop for you. I'm not saying that the next stop is,
Are you implying that that's the direction the board's going?
no, I'm just trying to give you some information.
Understanding of the situation.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Now, Tim's coming in the door, so I haven't adjourned yet. So I am at the point now as the chairman, I'm going to not reconvene the meeting, but want you to check him in, and we can do this, at what time it is, and then we'll go into new business, which we haven't read yet.
All right,
So he'll be able to do that?
well, I would recommend at this point, we give the applicant the option to, whether to go forward or.
Wait a minute. For, now it doesn't have to be 3. I mean, now you got a fourth one to break the tie.
regardless.
Help me out.
I mean, just, can you talk to the applicant? I mean, it's up to the applicant if they want to pursue. We still don't have 5 board members. But yeah, it doesn't need to be unanimous. At the
Right.
same time, I mean,
Yeah, it doesn't need to be unanimous now.
Right.
Huh?
It's like, call your phone.
I didn't bring it in.
I know. It's the only number I had.
Oh, that's all right. So, yeah, we gotta talk through. Okay, moving right along here. If the applicant wants to wait until there's 5 board members, now that, but we do have 4, so you gotta make the call on this. I don't quite know.
I don't make.
Well,
That's the applicant's choice.
yep,
it's the applicant's choice? No, yes?
yes.
Now you have 4 board members, I'm happy to see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, there.
Thank you.
There again, folks, I just trying to, okay. All right. You're lucky you read all that stuff last week for me. All right. Okay. New business. This, the new business is a variance request for a side yard setback from 7 feet required to 3.5 feet, provided for the property located at 4624 Whispering Oaks, parcel number 7974222. At this time, before we get into this, anybody that has anything will come up to the podium and sign in.
Swear. Do you want to swear William first?
Yeah, in a minute. And at this time, anybody that's going to speak up there has to be sworn in. So raise your right hand if you're going to speak on this subject. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Okay. Staff report.
Yes. The R1 zone property at 4624 Whistling Oaks Court is the site of a new single-family dwelling under construction in the Northwood subdivision. A zoning permit for that use was approved and issued in October 2016. The application and site plan for that permit indicated the minimum 7-foot building side setback for the right or southern side of the dwelling, as dictated by Section 803 of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution for a building in an R1 zone district. In early January 2017, it was brought to the attention of the zoning department that 3 large basement window wells were being constructed on this right/southern side of the dwelling and extending 3.5 feet into the 7-foot setback. On January 5th, 2017, notice was sent to the property owner of the subject property and to the builder of the dwelling, informing them of the setback violations discovered at the subject property. Section 2206, Architectural Projections of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution states, quote, "Open structures such as a porch, deck, canopy, cantilever, bay window, balcony, platform, carport, covered patio, or similar architectural projections attached to the main structure shall not project into the required minimum setbacks," unquote. As stated in the notice, Section 2206 does not specifically call out window wells. However, not every example can be itemized in any given section of the zoning resolution. The spirit and intent of that particular section needs to be inferred. The zoning manager, through consultation with Lucas County Plan Commission staff, concluded that the window wells met the intent of Section 2206. The applicant has chosen to seek this variance from the required 7-foot side setback to 3.5 feet provided for the right side of the subject property, as opposed to removing the window wells from the structure. Staff finds that the dwelling as being constructed is in violation of Sylvania Township zoning resolution Section 2206 and does not accurately meet the information submitted in the permit application or on the site plan, both of which are the basis for permit approval by the zoning department. Staff therefore recommends denial of the requested variance from the minimum side yard setback of 7 feet required to 3.5 feet provided for an R1 zone property for the property located at 4624 Whistling Oaks Court. Should the board decide to approve this variance request, staff recommends that the board attach as a condition to that approval that the applicant be required to install and permanently maintain some semblance of screening, such as a privacy fence or plantings of adequate height and breadth, for example, arborvitae or coniferous trees, that offer year-round shielding of the window wells from the view of the adjoining residential property. Staff further recognizes the nebulousness of Section 2206 on this particular item and feels that that section needs to be amended to clarify the status of basement window wells. Dependent on how the BZA decides on this particular case, the zoning department will draft and propose an amended Section 2206 to explicitly include or exclude basement window wells from the architectural projection regulation.
Any questions for Darrell?
No.
Gentlemen? No questions? At this time, we'll take, anybody that'd like to come up to the podium?
The applicant.
The applicant, yeah. This time, we'll bring the applicant.
Hey guys, thanks for coming, Tim.
Better late than never.
My name's Chuck Smallsreed, and I represent the owners of the property on Whistling Oaks. I'm with Michelle Construction. As Darrell mentioned, we applied for a zoning permit on or about October 17th, 2016. We submitted a copy of our plans and a site plan. Simultaneously, we sent the same information to the Architectural Control Committee. Mr. McGowan was our point of contact, and within a short period of time we received a zoning certificate to move forward with our project, as well as an approval from the Homeowners Association Architectural Control Committee.
Excuse me. You say you got permission from Lucas County to go ahead with your building permit, is that what you said?
I did not say that.
Oh, what did you say?
We received a zoning certificate from Sylvania Township shortly after our application, as well as the approval from the Architectural Control Committee from the Homeowners Association, the developer, if you will, Mr. McGowan, and his committee also approved our site plan as well as our construction drawings. Once we received the zoning certificate, we submitted them to the Building Inspection Department for approval. We received approval from Lucas County as well to construct the home. We started the process, started construction of the home. Short time later, we received a letter. At the time we received the letter, I was out of town. Upon my return, I contacted Darrell almost immediately. Came in. I also contacted the president of the Architectural Control Committee. Told them that I was apologized for the situation, but wanted to, had a position. Our company, has a position that we are constructing within the elements of our application. We submitted a drawing that showed one window well at the time. As construction evolves, throughout the process, anybody that's been involved in the construction business knows that, things change and things evolve. Our site, our foundation, had one large window well that was approved initially, had two additional basement windows on the foundation, and throughout the construction process, the contract customer, Mr. James, who's not here this evening, requested that we add 2 additional escape well windows for the basement. Just felt like it would allow him to have some additional light down in the basement. We already have one on the same side. So it was easy enough for us to add the additional windows, complied with the first window. We did submit to Mr. McGowan a revised site plan. We did not submit a revised site plan to the zoning department because it didn't encroach the side yard any further than the original application. Again, shortly after that, we were advised that we were non-compliant. So, again, the question comes in that we had submitted our site plan with a 7-foot side yard from the main structure. We have window wells that project into the side yard. It's been noted that there's multiple properties within the same community that have the same situation. So we felt to resolve the situation, it was in our best interest to come and apply for a variance to explain our position. And, it does create a bit of a hardship. The drawings show a finished basement plan, and the original escape well window is in an area where there's going to be a bedroom. That's been approved, again, by all people involved, through the zoning, through the architecture control, as well as Lucas County. So if we were to eliminate that window well, now we have now eliminated a form of egress, which is required in order to call that space a bedroom space in the lower level. You have to have 2 forms of egress.
So you got to, if I may interrupt you here, or go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just want to get all this straight on my paperwork here. So, what you're saying is you had a permit in a drawing that was approved with this window well in it.
Correct.
Not after the fact, but when you submitted your drawings to Lucas County.
To Lucas County, to Sylvania Township, and the Northwoods Architectural Control Committee. There is a window that projects 3.5 feet from the side elevation of our foundation. 1 window well. Correct.
Okay, all right.
And so the variance is for the other 2, I'm assuming, right?
Um,
Or all 3?
No, I'm pretty sure I'm here for a variance for all 3 because
Because there hasn't been a variance for this at all, right?
that is correct. That is correct.
I
Again,
didn't mean that.
as Mr., am I pronouncing it right, Grouse, sorry. Mr. Grouse, as he, read through the ordinance, it states architectural projections, open structures, porches, decks, canopies, cantilevers, bay windows, balconies, platforms, carports, covered patios, etc. All of those items are above grade items. They all are items that, in my opinion, don't apply to this particular situation. There are multiple things that project on the side of a home that are also not taken into consideration. Generators and generator pads, steps, air conditioner units, satellite dishes, all those things are on side yards of people's properties that project into the side yard that are permanently attached to the side of the structure. Again, I'm not sure why it wasn't caught initially. We built this project because we thought we were approved to build it. It was submitted. The original drawing did show a fabricated or a prefabricated type enclosure as a escape well window. Pardon me?
Not a foundation.
Not a foundation. This is not a foundation either. This is these are concrete walls that are hanging on the side of the foundation. There's no footing underneath these walls. They are shorter than the foundation. We constructed the foundation, and as our waterproofing contractor, who would typically be the contractor that would install a fiberglass or a corrugated aluminum type window well, as he presented the quality of his materials, the homeowner said, I don't want that, that's garbage. He wanted something that was going to be more, have a better integrity and a better curb appeal, and so we had suggested pouring in place, casting in place concrete window wells that are approximately 7 feet deep. We have a 9-foot poured wall. So they're 6.5 to 7 feet deep. I mean, they were backfilled before this came to my attention.
With a foundation?
Excuse me?
With a foundation under that wall?
There was no foundation under those walls. We backfilled the side yard, we backfilled the foundation, the permanent foundation with stone.
I'm just trying to get a handle on what the hell it is. You know?
Understood. What we did is we eliminated the precast fiberglass, hopper-style window wells and replaced them with a cast-in-place. We drilled holes in the foundation, we put rebar in those holes, and we poured 6-inch cast-in-place walls with no footing setting right on top of stone. So basically, they're just concrete structures that are sitting there kind of hanging on the side of the wall. There's no footing underneath there, they're not as deep as the footings, and they're backfilled with stone just like any other window well would be. It's our intention to cap those with a natural limestone. They're going to be limestone accents on the home. And we don't foresee any of them projecting above grade other than the 2-inch rock face limestone. They'll be right at grade. We're also putting a industrial type grading over the top, a grading that you would typically find in a commercial or industrial application. We're not putting a clear lens or a bubble like you see on other types of window wells, so that they will be perfectly flat along with grade. And as you can see by the colored pictures that we provided, kind of a landscape rendering, they'll be landscaped around. From the street, you'll never even know they're there. It's unfortunate that we're here this evening. We would have had the opportunity to move our home over slightly had we known that this was going to be in violation. But again, as we presented our plans with our site plan, it clearly showed the foundation on our 7-foot setback, and it clearly showed the window well encroaching the side yard. At the time that it was our interpretation that that's how it was approved.
So, was the original drawings that gave you the zoning certificate, I'm sorry, what was the difference between those drawings then and the drawings now?
The drawing that you have now shows 3 window wells. The original drawing had 1 window well.
Is that, and this is probably a general question, that still needs a variance, doesn't it? Even one
would, but-
well,
We base our approval on the application and on the plot plan, which the board received. The plot plan does not indicate any window wells. It indicates a 7-foot setback, and the application indicates a 7-foot setback. I can share this with the board if you don't have copies available.
yeah, I do.
In practice, though, no escape well window wells of any sort are ever noted on the foundation plan or on the site plan, correct? I mean, that would have to be the case if there's 4 others in the neighborhood that have window wells extending into the side yard.
Right, it should be.
Right. The guest bedroom, I assume, was where you had the original,
Correct.
so
There's
front
a-
of the house.
Correct, on the front of the house. The other 2 window wells, they were original basement-type windows that would have required a much smaller window well, a hopper-type window, if you will, if that makes sense to everybody. And again, it's an exercise room. As we're, going through the decision-making process and selection process with our clients, he noted obviously this nice window that was going to be in the bedroom, and said, what's the cost to add these? Eliminate these 2 windows, add these 2 windows, and just like any other construction project, you create a change order, and it didn't encroach the side yard any more than the original one. Again, we did update our plans with Mr. McGowan to show the 3rd window well, but
What
again,
window was the one that was quote-unquote approved, or you're using your
the
terminology?
one closest to the road,
To the front of the home?
the front of the home.
How far out does a poured an attached structure extend in the side yard compared to like a Philco escape wall, window well?
Exact amount.
So it's the same distance in the side yard as the,
We're 3'6", and most Bilco type window wells are 42 inches as well. They're not typically square. They're because of the way they're made up. They're composite. They have a curve to them, so that they hold back the earth more. Obviously, we squared these off because we're dealing with concrete.
Let me ask you another question. When you had your foundation inspected, correct? Were these window wells in there?
Yes,
All three of them?
yes. We have to have our the waterproofing completed before we can have our foundation inspected. So the waterproofing was spray applied, and there's an insulation board that's also applied, and that was held back initially until the window wells could be installed, and then they came back and sprayed up to them so that they were completely sealed, and then our inspection took place after that.
Did you get the notice, the violation notice prior to that inspection or after? Do you know?
I don't recall.
Do you know, Darrell?
I don't believe, I'll answer that question. I got the notice after the inspection, after the window wells were installed. They were already 100% complete before I received the notice.
Was the violation from the zoning department, or was the violation?
right, yeah, from the zoning department.
So you had that before you put them in?
I'm sorry, I had what?
Confused here. You had that notice from the zoning department before you put them in, or after you put them in?
The way I recall it is, again, I was out of town
Okay.
when the letter was mailed to me.
Okay.
I had my mail held when I got back. I opened my mail and noticed that there was a letter from the township. The foundation was constructed. The window wells were constructed. The foundation was waterproofed and inspected. Then the violation letter came.
on a recent picture I have here, it shows the grade down, it's probably 6-7 inches from the top.
The window well that's closest to the front of the home
Right.
currently is slightly lower than the other two. The other two were backfilled right at grade. It's our intention that all three window wells will, grade will be established at the top of those window wells. The only thing that will stick out above grade will be the 2 inches of rock face limestone that will cap the top of those.
This picture shows, I think, that you're stoning the interior of it, or not?
Correct.
So you are. So you're going to stone
Yeah.
the interior up to the cap?
Up to the cap and all around the window, and then that's a wainscot of stone on that side elevation.
Anything else?
Oh, I have. What about you guys?
You gentlemen?
I think, can you just talk about what type of shrubbery or planting you're going to be doing around these? Because the drawings here show some, or indicate some here that seem to be like hedges right around the window.
Correct. It's the intention of the owner. You know, we don't have a complete rendering or complete landscape design at this point. You know, again, that's something that evolves as the home evolves. We felt it was important to show this to this board this evening, to show you that it's the intention of the owner not to have any grass, lawn on that whole entire side of the property because of how narrow it is. It'll all be shrubbery, it'll all be hedge type, permanently green type of plantings. There may be other plantings that are integrated with it, to create an aesthetically pleasing landscape. But it's, the intention that around those window wells we'll have some type of a hedge that, again, will be small initially, and then, as it grows and develops, it'll, create a hedgerow around each window well. I mean, this isn't a low budget project. This is it's a 7,000 square foot home. I'm sure it's not the biggest in the neighborhood, but it's by far not the smallest. It's the intention of the owner to create an aesthetically pleasing home, not only for himself but for his family and for others, to enjoy. It's going to be an aesthetically pleasing home to the neighborhood. Again, it's the opinion of myself and Michelle Construction that these these window wells were built in compliance with our request initially. Again, after being made aware of the situation, we were very proactive in gathering information and trying to come to a resolution. And Mr. Grouse and I had a couple of different discussions, and I felt that it was the best interest of everybody involved to apply for a variance to resolve this situation. Obviously, we're prepared that if this board decides that this isn't acceptable, and they realize that it's been approved and accepted in other homes in the community, that my client's prepared to have these removed and torn out. We have not installed the windows yet. We're actually at the point where windows and doors will be coming shortly, but we'll have to address our egress situation with the county for the lower level bedroom, because obviously if we eliminate the window well, we eliminate a point of egress, which is a requirement to have a basement bedroom.
Okay, anybody else here?
Is there any-
Anybody else would like to say something? Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Mark Greenblatt. I am the property owner. I do not reside there. My mother does, but she's a bit beside herself from this whole situation, so I didn't even tell her about this meeting. Figured I could try and handle it on my own. So since it's fresh in my mind, I've been doing a lot of research on this. I know that the builder stated that the window wells, or they appear to be foundation in my view, but I don't build, were inspected the same time as the foundation. That is not correct. The foundation was inspected on December 29th. Those window wells were not in place yet. That A, from being literally living there, or my mother living there and seeing it, and B, speaking to Lucas County specifically, who was very surprised to find out that there was additional concrete poured after, I don't know the exact date, but it was after December 29th, which is, I too was out of town a couple of days later and found out about this from my mother. This is the third home that I've built in this neighborhood. Subsequently, my last house literally sat exactly like my house does in this picture. On the start of a curve of a cul-de-sac. I had seen the builders in my work establishment before when they staked the lot, and I had asked them or told them, I said, FYI, I had a house, someone built a house quite close to that house. It was within the legal 7-foot limit, but it appeared close because it's on the curve of a cul-de-sac, and it made that house, that last house, difficult to sell because of the proximity of the two homes. I again, I made mention to the builders when I saw them in my store. I said, before you dig this hole, you may want to look at possibly shifting it back or over, and it would be beneficial to both homeowners, again, because I'd experienced it. When I saw they dug the foundation, I wasn't happy because it was right up on the 7-foot line, but again, it's what was permitted, and there was nothing I could do about that. I let it be until I got the call that these window wells were going in, and they're close. You've seen those pictures. I have a picture of a small 4-year-old child that I tried to stuff between the two. He didn't quite fit. I don't know exactly how tall he is, but he can't ride anything at Cedar Point yet, so I can tell you he's little.
That's a good way, yeah.
This is where my mom lives. I built the house. It's a nice house, and like the gentleman said, these are two very nice homes, and I don't think they should be, stuck together as they are. My chief concern is safety. I know they mentioned shrubs and whatnot, but it's the only access to my mother's backyard that my kids will be using. They, check my notes. My only thing is, I know they're not saying it's foundation, but it appears to be foundation to me. It's air conditioners, satellite dishes, all that stuff could be moved pretty easily, put on a different side of the house, put on the back side of the house. They were permitted for the one front window. According to Mr. McGowan himself, they were permitted for a soft window, a fiberglass prefab curved window. He never permitted the other two. And, my only thing is if the builder and homeowner had gone about this in the right way and, had these on the plans and submitted all this, and they still infringed, 3.5 feet inside of the 7 feet, would the city or township have approved that? And if not, then I guess I don't see why they should approve it now for, doing it after the fact. And that's really it. It's a tough situation. I feel like it could have been avoided a few different times, and here we are. So that's all I got. Any questions for me?
So if this were a fiberglass Philco, what we call scape well, window well, that sat where this front one was shown on the guest bedroom,
Sure.
would you still have the same issue?
Well, listen, push comes to shove, that the first one was approved. If you, and again, you just roll over your shoulder, but how the houses curve, it becomes tighter towards the back. So the front one, do we love it? We don't love it. It was approved. There's nothing we can do about it. And it's gapped far enough away that it seems insignificant. It's the other two that really dip close. Specifically the last one that's basically on top of the fence. I'm not entirely sure how they can plant anything in between there without it actually growing into our yard. But the front one is livable. Again, not my first choice, but if there's any compromise to be had, I guess I could accept that. The other two, which are up now, they're right there. It's a house.
Them are towards the back.
They are, correct. The front one is, you can't see it in the picture, it's closer to your
Okay, I got
head.
it. I just wanted to make sure.
But that's all. It's like you said, he built a 7,000 square foot house. Quite frankly, it's probably too big of a house for that lot. But again, I'm not a builder. I'm not one to say what can and can't be done. I put my mother there so she could be a street behind me. It's a beautiful neighborhood. We, this is again my third house I've built there. I've had some requests for changes from Mr. McGowan from the Architectural Committee, some of which I didn't love, but my plans were approved as such, and I made the changes. These are all after the fact, and like I said, those were poured after the foundation inspection, so, you know, infer what you want with that, but
Because
yeah.
those do not have footers, and they're not bearing on the ground, they're not considered part of the foundation.
Got it.
So they would not, typically, they wouldn't be part of the foundation inspection. So that part of it, I understand the
Sure.
chronological order, but it's not relevant.
got it. But,
If you had poured a footer and set those things on it, like a crawl wall, then there would have been an issue.
and again, yeah, I don't know what's under there. I just know there's a lot of concrete, and it goes fairly deep. That's it.
But I think the other gentleman was up there, said there was no pad under there, no foundation.
Correct.
Just set them on the
It's
dirt.
pinned into the
Yeah, right.
poured wall.
So it really, yeah, okay, I see you. Okay, good.
Good.
Anything else, sir? Nope, Mr. Greenblatt?
No, that's it. I appreciate you listening.
Okay, is there any other questions from the board? No. Mr. Tim? Oh, yes, go ahead. Mr. Smallgreen?
Speak first, I'm happy to wait.
No, I don't, is there anybody else? Okay, go ahead, sir.
I'd like to address a few comments from Mr. Greenblatt. The inspection for the foundation, in order to construct the window wells as we've constructed them, required us to backfill the foundation. So therefore, we got our foundation inspection, the initial inspection. We were able to backfill with several feet of stone, so that it created a backfill area for us to hang and pin the pour-in-place window wells. Mr. Ulrich did, he wasn't the initial inspector on the, I don't recall who it was, Stephanie, I believe, inspected the initial foundation because Mr. Ulrich was not there. He came back and did a drive-by to make sure that we completed our waterproofing to code after the window wells were installed. Again, the window wells don't require a Lucas County building inspection due to the nature of their construction. They're basically pinned and hung off the side with no permanent foundation underneath them. But again, in order to construct them the way we did, we had to get our inspection because you can't backfill your wall until, that's why you'll see there's just stone along the side there at this point, and then we finalized the backfill after a second inspection, a drive-by, if you will, was done to make sure that the waterproofing was completed as we indicated it would be. I'm here to answer any other questions.
Well,
as
I
well.
guess I have a question for you. And maybe you can answer and can't. The holes in the side of the foundation, when the foundation was poured, were them 3 window wells in there?
Yes,
All 3 of them?
correct.
So when the inspector came out, he would have seen that on the foundation, is that correct?
Correct.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, he revised his building plans prior to submitting them for approval. So these 3 were on the building plans that he submitted to the county for approval.
No, I don't know that to be a fact. So restate that, would you, Mr. Slaughter? Them
Why
are,
don't you tell?
The pour-in-place windows, typically on a scape rail window, we would pour in place a framed window, a one-piece unit that would actually be set in place and cast in place. This particular window package is not a cast-in-place window. We basically created,
Okay.
correct, those window frames are there to put in the same windows that we're putting in the rest of the house rather than a substandard window that is typically below grade in an inexpensive type application. This is a more professional application. So those windows, openings were inspected prior to pouring and after pouring because of the rebar that, the structural part of it that is applied to the application prior to pouring and after pouring. So those three window openings were there during the first initial inspection, and we were able to backfill with stone. We then installed our cast-in-place window wells on top of stone that was backfilled up against the foundation. And then a secondary inspection was done by Mr. Ulrich to certify the waterproofing.
So the the inspector seen these. I mean, he had to know what they were, right?
It's really not an inspectable item. A window well is not, there's no structural integrity to it. There's no,
Okay, all right.
it doesn't create the only thing upon final
I mean, you could
inspection.
have just put a window in there and landscaped around it, couldn't you? I mean,
In theory, yes.
yeah, in theory, yeah. Okay, I understand that. Thank you.
This area marked floor mat area, I assume the floor joists for the room above it, the running front to back.
Correct.
Anything else, gentlemen?
We have another contestant.
Oh, you have another contestant. Oh,
Can I
good.
talk?
Yeah,
Are you done?
You have to come here.
I want to talk to, can you just reiterate to them the steel grates that go on top of these at completion? Just because once there's a steel grate, they do not, they're not a potential safety issue. I understand Mark's complaint 100%. He's got 3 small boys, and that is, I get it 100%. Once the steel grates are on, you don't, there's not a potential.
I don't believe you mentioned
safety
those
issue.
previously, did you?
I think I did, but I'll readdress that. Again, at grade, a typical Bilco type window well that is made out of fiberglass typically has a bubble type enclosure that's not very aesthetically pleasing. This is going to have a limestone cap, and flush with grade is going to be an aluminum grating material, typical to what you would see on a city street, over a manhole. It's a heavy-duty product that's used as an industrial type grating. It will be powder coated and in place at grade, so therefore it does prohibit falling. It's a fall protection. That is an inspectable item. So upon completion, when we get our final inspection, the building inspector does inspect for a fall hazard over the window wells, whether it be a precast or a fiberglass or a corrugated steel. There has to be some type of fall protection into that window well because of their depth, whether they're 2 feet
So,
deep.
any animal, any person, anybody that would walk on the side of the house, whether he was asked to go there, wouldn't fall into there because there would be this grate.
That is correct. That is correct. I also wanted to comment that our setback of 7 feet is consistent from the front of the building to the back of the building. Mr. Greenblatt implied that there was, because of the curve of the road, we are perpendicular to and parallel to the side property line.
Yeah.
So the consistency from the front window well to the back window well is exactly the same. Mrs. Greenblatt has a fence that encloses her backyard, and again, that fence is right smack dab on the property line, and is 3.5 feet to the edge of the window well from her fence and from the property line as it extends forward, as you draw an imaginary line. So it appears that there's more space, at the front window well because the fence doesn't encroach the side property line there. It's, again, we haven't had the opportunity to get to a completion to see what it's going to look like because, we have an issue here we're trying to resolve. But I can assure you that the architectural landscape rendering that you see there is it's not going to do the project justice on paper and, until you see it in person. But we need to be, granted the variance, one, to comply with the Lucas County building regulation for having a secondary egress, for having a lower level bedroom, and again, the fall protection and the landscaping that would, was a recommendation by Darrell if indeed the variance was granted. I feel that, this is kind of bigger than me. I mean, clearly there are multiple homes in the neighborhood that have window wells that encroach a side yard significantly more than I am, and they've, just kind of flown under the radar for this period of time. It may be the opportunity to address this with the ordinance and rewrite the statute, if you will, so that it better addresses that for future construction.
So what you're telling this board, and this is in my mind, that you really never gave it a thought because it wasn't a foundation that got into the setback. I mean, these things are put in other places, right?
Correct.
So
I didn't, to answer your question or to clarify.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
No.
I'm just trying to figure out.
You're not putting words in my mouth. I did not install these 3 window wells thinking that I was doing them illegally or intentionally to violate the code or the HOA requirements or the zoning requirements. I installed them thinking that I was in compliance with the approval by given a zoning certificate, as well as, we have to submit a copy of our blueprint with the site plan, and it clearly shows a very large window well on the plan, and a copy of the site plan shows the location of the foundation. The window well, again, are typically not drawn on site plans. They're like an air conditioner. They stick on the side of the house. They've never been taken into consideration for side yard setbacks. Just like a generator pad or a set of steps or a sidewalk going from the driveway to the backyard. All those things encroach, are in side yards that, that would take away. Even landscaping is an example. It's put in the side yard. It encroaches the side yard minimum requirements. The permanent foundation of this home is in compliance with what the zoning standard states. And again, we started the construction of this project with thinking that we were completely in compliance with all, all interested people, at the time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm head of the homeowners association.
Then you?
Could I make a comment?
Yeah, did you get sworn in?
No, I did.
Okay. We're going to do this. Sure, all right. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the best of your knowledge? Okay. And you're with who?
I'm president of the Northwoods Homeowners Association, the association that both Mr. Greenblatt belonged to and that the owners that they're building for belong to. I'm not here to make a comment for either one of my representatives, just a general comment, because I do have some concerns for the Homeowners Association. I'm not aware of the 4 homes that currently have window wells like this. I'm assuming, because Chuck said it, that they are in the setback area where they shouldn't be. But they got there under the radar, I'm sure, because knowing Mr. McGowan Sr., I'm sure that he did not intentionally allow those kind of things to happen. This one is not going in under the radar. Obviously, those first 4, the neighbors, somebody in the area didn't have a problem with what was happening with their neighbor's home. And it was not brought to the surface, and now years have gone by and they're willing to accept it the way it is. That's not the case in this particular situation. So my concern really is if this board decides to grant a variance for this home, what impact is that going to have on the remaining 20 lots that the developer has to sell And we homeowners want to make sure that the stature of the homes that are already in the neighborhood, the 80-plus homes that are in there, will be retained as we try to finish out this neighborhood at the quality that the rest of the homes are already in. I mean, that's one concern I have. The second is the recommendation, I think, from the staff was denial, but if the board opted to not take that denial, one of the requests, I believe, was to put up privacy fence. Privacy fence are against the restrictions of our homeowners association and would not be allowed. So you may require it, but the homeowners association would not allow it. So those are my comments.
A split rail fence, though, is that
Split rail, exactly as Mrs. Greenblatt has, is allowed, yes, but not a privacy fence.
Thank you.
Okay.
Darrell?
Thank you very much.
Questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, well, I have hang on, it may come back to you. But, Darrell, have you written a violation before for a setback violation on a window well before?
No.
No? This is the first one?
Yeah, we've never had a complaint on one before.
Okay. All right.
I guess I would ask Darrell if he wouldn't mind just verifying that there are other homes that are in violation. After, we submitted a list of properties, we requested site plans from additional addresses that you provided that information, and it appears, were you able to verify that they are non-compliant?
Four of them, three or four of them that you provided.
Okay, that are non-compliant
Right.
with the same type of structure, or similar structure?
Similar.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to...
So I guess
for the
my
record.
question is I don't, I mean, they're in violation, but yet they're not required to draw this on their site drawings. So I'm confused I mean, it seems
Well,
like.
yeah, they are. They did draw one.
No, there
No,
wasn't any
they're not at all.
on the site plan.
How about on the foundation plan?
There were zero.
Is there one on there? Could I see that drawing? On that foundation drawing that I looked up,
On the plot plan, there are
no,
there are none.
okay. Bear with me here, Tim, I want to show you something on there that I wasn't sure of. Are these your drawings? Whose drawing? This building is it? Has he got a set of your drawings?
Apparently.
Huh?
Clearly, they're public record at Lucas County.
Yeah, I don't know. Could I look at them, Mr. Greenblatt? Oh, you got a set too? Okay. When I looked this up, I don't know where the hell I got it. I seen this thing here. This is, when I read this thing, the violation was for an encroachment into that with the
Right.
foundation. This does not have the foundation. You know, I'm not trying to make, I'm just saying, this was on the drawing, right?
This is what Darrell looks at, okay?
We look at the plot plan, Mr. Hayes.
Okay,
The plot plan and the application is what we go by. We don't look at the blueprints. The building department looks at the blueprints.
Who does?
Why are we required to submit a set of blueprints at the time of application?
You're not.
We are.
Lucas County.
Lucas County.
Lucas County requires that, we don't require it. We require a site plan, a plot plan, such as this,
Well,
indicate, and the application are,
Every application that I've made at ZONING Township, I've always submitted a copy of the blueprint. It's always been a requirement. I've always been told we need a copy. of the
Okay,
plan,
I just
copy of the
wanted
site
to
plan,
see this.
the check, and the application.
So really, that guy...
we don't even usually look at the blueprints.
Doesn't give a shit about it.
Typically, the only time we'll look at them is if there's something on the plot plan that might be illegible, or there's some question on the measurements, then we'll look at the blueprints to double check it or something, but
He could have dug a
we
window
typically don't even,
there for that.
I've submitted them every time, copy of the blueprint. I don't know, maybe that was just an assumption that they've always been given to you and they've always been given back with the application. I'm assuming the reason why we submit them is because
Thank you.
That was a requirement.
I guess my issue is so, I mean, the way the process is today, the only way that you would know if somebody's in violation is by a neighbor complaining. It's
Or
required to be on
if we
the site.
happen to be driving by and saw it or something, but more than likely it would be a complaint into the zoning department. Just as with any zoning violation, that it's more often than not, it's something that's called in.
And typically you wouldn't put them units in, or whatever that unit says it was there, until after the foundation was in, right? You know, so, okay. Enough said on that. Anything else? You good? You good? We're gonna adjourn, come back with a decision. If you wanna stay, you may. If not, you will be notified in 30 days. So it's up to you. Correct? Is that correct, Cheryl?
Yep.
We're doing that. Adjourned.
It's almost to the point where the stop sign is. You come in and you turn left and it's just right there on the right. Is their backyard where the cycle comes around, the basketball court and all that kind of stuff. And the little kids, right, and then it backs up this way. Well, I'm sure we did buy 2 lots. Or 3, and then 2 behind us. And then he pays 3 times HOA fees right now. So that's okay. If you allow the other 2. He didn't. Well, you might want to service him. Yeah. You were your heirs.
That's my wife.
I might want the cash. You want to have a cruise.
I do that.
Because of our daughter, my daughter still has
I always sorry, that was so good. It was nice.
a
You're right
You're
here.
on the ski course, guys, we're up the Pacific side. 3 miles. Yeah, if you go around the Pacific, you go north. Our resort has a 15-acre called Crystal Lagoon. We were there for 10 days. We usually go Saturday, Saturday.
Sure.
You ready? Okay, Board of Zoning Appeals will be reinstated here. So,
Mr. Chairman, I motion to find the dwelling located at 4624 Whistling Oaks Road, parcel number 797422, is not in violation of section 2206 of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution, therefore no variance will be issued.
Second.
second. Discussion. Any discussion up here on the board?
So I guess we can give you some feedback on how we came up with this decision. Aesthetically, this is not what anyone would want. I mean, you don't want a window this close or a window well this close to a property line. The issue is that when we look and interpret 2206, architectural projections are items that are at grade and above, not below grade. And this is not part of a foundation, so it can't be considered foundational. And I can tell you there are hundreds of cases in the township where this is the issue. And in this particular instance, and those, we don't consider them to be architectural projections. So, you guys want to add anything to that?
No, it's good.
Okay, call for the vote.
Can I ask one question?
Sure, man.
Is that purely decision based at grade? Is there any impact on that decision whether it's poured as part of the walls or not?
You need to go up here and ask. So they
It's on
want
the
to,
record.
we want to be able to hear what you said before we answer.
The question is, was your decision based purely on whether it's at grade, or does it also include whether or not those walls were poured to be part of the foundation?
So technically.
In this case, which
Yeah.
they were not part of the
Right.
foundation.
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
If that wall had a footer and was poured, what we would call, at the same time or in conjunction with the foundation,
Correct.
we would consider that part of the foundation would be in violation. This particular structure was poured in place. He could have gotten a escape well, window well of the same exact dimension and screwed it to the foundation,
Correct.
and it would do the exact same thing. So I'm not exactly sure what you were looking to get from that question, but we don't consider that foundational.
Well, what I'm looking to get is some guidance for our architectural approval committee on moving forward with the remaining requests we're going to get from builders. And it sounds to me, if they put into their drawings a window well that goes into the restricted area that, and I'm not a builder here, but that goes in with less than the best architectural use and development of that window, that's acceptable, as opposed to one that would have a footer and would be part of the poured basement.
Well, if it was part of the poured basement, it would appear on the site plan. Here.
Right?
And if it was, and it extended into the 7-yard setback, or 7-foot setback, Darrell wouldn't approve it. Does that answer your question?
And so the issue here is the fact that it did not have a footer.
Correct.
Correct.
It's not a foundation.
So, and so this board is comfortable having window wells constructed that way, that in the long term that they will stand up and be acceptable?
Remember, it's not an aesthetic, decision.
I'm not talking about aesthetic. I'm talking about it
it's not on
leveling
the
over
site
time
design.
and things of that nature.
If it's not on the site design, then it doesn't require a variance. I mean, that's
Okay.
the issue.
All right, thank you.
Okay? Call for the vote.
Okay, Mr. Flecker?
Yes?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Lamont?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion for adjournment. Second?
I'm going to motion just to make sure that the variance is moved off of the agenda today because of the previous motion. I don't know if we need to do that or not, or I feel like we have a dangling variance, a motion here. Does it matter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll move to have the variance request moved off the agenda.
Second. Yeah, vote.
Mr. Flecker?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Lamont?
Yes.
Is that
Okay, we
adjourned?
have a second.
That was adjourned as well? Or-
I did. Seconded by,
I'll second.
all in favor? Vote, what the heck? What are we doing? You're gonna call it?
All right. Mr. Lamont?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Flecker?
Yes.
Yes.
We are adjourned.